Alright, so here's the problem. I have a lot of camera gear and equipment just kind of strung around the room in random places on shelves and drawers, and I can never find anything when I need to find it. Not to mention charging. When I need to charge things, I need to find an empty outlet somewhere or a USB plug where I can, plug things in and hopefully not forget where I placed it. So today we're going to try to fix all that. So here's the plan. I have this empty section of the wall here where I'm going to build a 3-tier shelf system as well as a USB hub that kind of connects to it on the back so I can have organized charging as well. So we went ahead and picked up some select pine board from Home Depot. If you've never used this stuff before, this is a little different than the common board that you might typically find over there. It's also much more expensive, but you can definitely tell in the quality of the milling process for this. So definitely worth it to spend a little bit more money on quality materials to save you on the post work and all that. So let's go ahead and get these over to the miter saw. I'm going to cut them down to size. They all should be about the same size here, so this should go really quick. I'm going to need about 5 pieces at 24 inches. So let's go ahead and do that, and we'll figure out the rest later. After cutting down all the boards to about 24 inches, it looks like either the blade moved a bit or my measurements weren't quite right, but as you can see here, I have the boards all clamped together at the very bottom. They're all butted up against each other, but at the very top here, they do vary in length quite a bit. So what I'm going to do is, I already have them clamped up together here. I'm just going to take it back as one piece over to the miter saw and just trim this edge down to make sure everything is at the same level. It's more important that all the boards are the exact same length than it is that this is 24 inches exactly. And there we go. So that's nice and even there. Let's go ahead and get this unclamped and we can arrange it how we want for the shelf. Before we go ahead and put this together, I just want to give you guys a general idea of the construction of how I plan on putting this together. So I want this to be a 3-tiered shelf. So what I'll do is, with all these pieces the same length here, I'll go ahead and sandwich 2 boards on top of another. And then I'll put another backing there and then have the last shelf up top like that. So very easy to put together, very easy construction. I'm just going to go ahead and use some pocket screws at the very back, drive those in, and this thing should be pretty solid. Like I mentioned, I'm just going to use some pocket holes here to put this whole thing together. Luckily, it's not too many. I'm just going to have to drill some pocket holes into the back 2 panels here, and then I'll just, of course, use some glue to put it all together. Again, the pocket holes are really just there to hold the whole thing together until the glue dries. All right, we've gone ahead and drilled out all our pocket holes. There are a few too many here than I would like, but that was just because the alignment was too close to each other on both boards and I didn't want the screws hitting into each other. So I just went ahead and drilled a few more, moved over a little bit. So as you can see, like the screws aren't gonna touch on the inside there, which is good. I'm not looking forward to this part. Those of you that have used pocket holes before know that when you drive in a pocket screw, it tends to make the board wander just a little bit, right? Because it's coming in at an angle, it's kind of hard to get it to stay exactly where you need it to go when you're doing it, right? When you're driving in the screws. So what I think I'm gonna try to do is, once I get a nice bead of glue going here at the very bottom, I'll line it up best I can. And then I have this Bessie corner clamp that I'm just gonna clamp at least one edge just so I can line everything up and hopefully prevent it from moving around when I try to drive the screw in. And then once I have one side secure, I'll move the clamp over to the other side and then do the same thing over there. So let's go ahead and give it a shot. All right, that worked out pretty well, that method of just clamping it together and driving one screw in at a time. I mean, this is pretty good. It didn't wander off too much. I have a nice flat edge on this border here. So let's keep going. We got a few more screws to put in here. So after getting all the pocket holes screwed into place and all the glue off of here, we have an assembled shelf, just like that. All right, let me explain how I plan on mounting this to the wall, because again, I don't want screws coming in from the front because I don't want them to be visible. So instead, I'm gonna use what's called a French cleat. So what I've done is I've just cut down a piece of plywood, mitered it down at 45 degrees. So one side is gonna mount directly here to the shelf like this. So I'll drive in some screws from the back, and then you have this mitered edge here that will receive this end right here. So this will go against the wall, and this will just get hooked on like that. So pretty easy. Let's go ahead and get this mounted onto the shelf so that we can get this mounted to the wall. Obviously, once this cleat is installed onto the back here, this whole shelf is going to move away from the wall about 3/4 of an inch. But more importantly, if we just have it here at the top, it may have a tendency to wobble a little bit against the wall. So all I'm going to do is add a couple of spacer blocks here in the far corners. Same thing, I'm just going to add some glue here, drive a couple screws in, and it should be good to go. These aren't load bearing, so they don't have to be that strong here. We're back here in the room, and we have the shelf completely done right here. I'm just gonna go ahead and test fit it in place and see how it looks in this area here. So I'm thinking kind of right up against the hex organizer here, something like that. You know, I think that looks pretty good, not too bad. So let's get this off the wall. We'll go ahead and measure out where our French cleat should end, find the studs in the wall, and make sure it's nice and secure, because again, that cleat is the only thing holding this up against the wall, which again, should be fine. All right, so I have the stud marked out exactly where it is. Unfortunately, it's just one stud here in the center, so I will have to use these drywall anchors. So moment of truth. I have the shelf here, and if I did everything properly with this cleat, I should be able to just bring this up and drop it into place like that. There we go. And nice thing with the French cleat as well is it allows you to make small micro adjustments left and right, just so that you have this exactly where you want it here. So using the French cleat is going to move the shelf about 3/4 of the inch. Like I mentioned earlier, using the French cleat is going to move the shelf about 3/4 of an inch away from the wall, which in this case is fine because that gives me the opportunity to place this guy right here. Let me show you guys what this is. So right behind the gap of the shelf, I have this 4-unit USB hub. So I just have the wire running from underneath and then straight down through the desk and plugged in, right? So the only thing that you'll see is that little cable hanging off of it, which is fine. It's gonna tuck away next to the side of the hex grid pretty nicely, so you won't really even see it. So having the charging hub here is going to be great because I can just place batteries here up on the shelf, or the charging dock rather, and just have the cables running directly to them. So I always have a spot to plug things in to make sure things are charged and ready to go. So let's go ahead and place everything that I'm gonna organize up here on the shelf and see how it looks. Okay, so there we have it, guys. I went ahead and placed everything roughly where I want to place it for now. I may go ahead and rearrange it here later on, but for now, it's pretty much good to go. I have the lenses and the taller items at the very top over here, drone and controller on this side, microphone equipment over here, action camera below, and of course I have the charging center right over here, tucked away nice and neat, or neatish, you know. I can tuck these wires away a little better, but everything can charge right here at this corner, so everything's ready to go. I still have a couple of ports available and open on that side, so I could plug in like the mic and the drone controller, no problem, and keep everything charged up. So there we have it, guys. That's the completed build for the camera gear organizer / charging station. If you guys like this video, go ahead and give it a like. If you guys have any suggestions on how to improve this build, go ahead and leave that in the comments down below, please. Thank you guys so much for watching up until this point. So subscribe to stay tuned for any future videos. Thanks again.